Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a very talented and lovely lady from the 1985 cult classic Fast Forward, my first guest from that movie, Tracy Silver. Tracy Silver, the beautiful blonde, who was a dancer in that movie. She's coming on the show today to talk about the 35th anniversary of that cult classic, which was directed by Sidney Poitier, which is so fucking interesting that he would make a movie like that. I guess he liked the idea of, you know, getting into a tough business and persevering. And she's also done a lot of theater and TV. She did Carnal Knowledge with Burt Reynolds. She's done all these different things and stuff, so we're going to talk about that, how she got into dancing, etc. Also, I'd like to say happy belated birthday, even though I said happy birthday to her on Facebook yesterday. My friend and frequent guest, Terry Bolo. Happy birthday, darling. Love you. You're the aunt I wish I had growing up. You still are like an aunt to me. Love you, Terry. So, here is my interview with Tracy Silver. Hey, Tracy.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. This is such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, well, thank you for asking.
Absolutely. So, going back in time, wow, you're the second person who's laughed at it out of 900 plus shows.
That's a lot of time, right?
Yeah. Did you gravitate towards dancing and acting early on in your childhood?
The dancing was a thing because when I was young, I had what they now refer to as ADD.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Only when I was young, they called it hyperactivity.
Right.
So my mom, trying to save her own life, took me to the doctor, and he said, well, you can put her on Ritalin or you can put her in ballet class. And I was lucky because she put me in ballet class.
Nice. Yeah, I have ADD and I have Asperger's syndrome as well.
Right. So, and the more I can focus on something, the healthier I am, right?
Yes.
You feel that way too. But yeah. So I needed the exertion. I had so much energy. So the ballet class became, a tap and jazz class, and the tap and jazz class became more classes, became the Nutcracker, became performing, became, singing, became acting. So it kind of eventually turned into a full-time circumstance of performance.
Mm-hmm. You did a lot of school plays and community theater?
You know what? I did not. You know why? Because I was studying so diligently from the time I got really serious at around 12, the age of 12. Mm-hmm. And by the age of 13, I was really not interested in school at all. Yeah. And what happened was my mother came to the rescue again, and she said, if you don't graduate high school, you're going to have a problem. So I'll make a deal with you, and I will let you go take ballet class in New York with professional teachers, mm-hmm. 1 day a week if you will get through high school. So I did that, and then by the time, so I was only in high school for a half a day, because I worked it out with the high school. I had enough credits to graduate, so I was able to go to high school until around 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd take a bus, which I was about 40 minutes outside of Manhattan, and I would go study class in the state class in the city on Wednesdays. And then what happened was I decided I wanted to get into a scholarship with a big school so that I could get into a company, because I really just wanted to be a concert dancer at that point. And I wound up with a scholarship at Alvin Ailey. So I did not do community theater, and I did not do school plays because I was too busy at Ailey and too busy trying to study in that way. I wish I had done more performing, because Fast Forward was my first job, and I'd never really been out of a ballet studio before that. So it was like being shot out of a cannon.
Hmm. Wow. And,
Yeah.
and for dancing, are you trained in every style of dance?
I'm classically trained, let's see. So I'm trained in ballet, and then I'm trained in a couple different styles of ballet. I'm trained in RAD, I'm trained in Cicchetti, I'm trained in Vaganova, and I'm trained in Graham, which is modern. I'm trained in Horton. I'm trained in all kinds of jazz, whether it's Luigi or you get into mathematics and all of that kind of stuff. And then, basically Fosse. So I'm trained in all the real classical techniques. I didn't really do any hip-hop until I worked with Sydney, and that was, his whole point was trying to take trained dancers and turn them into hip-hop dancers, which was the premise of the film. And it's not really until, I teach now, and I teach students that they have to be well-versed in everything. You can't really specialize. You have to be able to do everything. So where I teach, it is imperative that students are well-versed and can do everything. I think the business has changed quite a bit, so.
Yeah, I admire anyone who can tap dance. I think that's the most fascinating style.
Yes, I agree. I do not tap. I am not a tapper. I married a tapper, so I hope I got it through marriage. but I can't tap either. I would like to. I'm thinking about maybe going and trying to, if time allows, which it never seems to. So.
Yeah, wow, that'd be great. So after high school, did you stay in New York and just study dance and acting?
So after high school, I stayed in New York. I was still on scholarship at Ailey, and I graduated in June. And in November was my first audition for this movie, and it took about 6 months. And by March, I was in California rehearsing and shooting. And then after I finished shooting and working on this film, I went back to New York to study acting.
Wow.
That's where I did a bunch of musical theater. Yeah.
So you did the movie first.
I did.
Wow. Were you excited to be working with Sidney Poitier?
Oh my goodness, who wouldn't be? I was completely excited and overwhelmed and just so grateful and so fortunate. And he's a wonderful, wonderful man, and I was very lucky to have that as my first experience.
Yeah, it's still mind-boggling to me as to why he would direct a movie like this, because, he's such an icon, and yet he directed a couple Gene Wilder comedies and the Bill Cosby movie Ghost Dad, but, it's just, he has a weird sensibility for directing movies,
Well, I think that this movie, his reaction to it, his reason for it, that I've heard him say, it was in tribute to his children. His own children, that he just wanted to make a movie about young people who were trying to aspire to something. So that for me is what I understand his reasoning to have been.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, has a lot in common with A Chorus Line, which was released in that same year. In that, during that time, people were recognizing how difficult it was to be discovered in show business, particularly in the world of dancing, and that the New York dance scene was so hot that people, thought about getting into that field. They needed to be shown that it was no bed of roses.
Right. Well, I think being good at anything is no bed of roses. I mean,
yeah.
I think with New York, and it's changed now. I mean, it's I don't know if it's changed or not, but I think what has happened is that it used to be there was really no gray area. You were either excellent or you weren't in New York, and because the people that were creating the jobs were ex-dancers and were ex-divas, in terms of they knew what the best was, and their work required you to be able to do certain things. It's a little different now because a lot of things have veered off into a little bit more of the contemporary area, but that doesn't seem to. I mean, I still work with dancers who are very, very highly trained and it still can be put into the contemporary. But I think there's a misunderstanding now with contemporary not needing to be. It's more about feeling than it is about doing.
Right.
And that's not really the case, I don't think. I think you need both.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So with New York, the accessibility, especially for musical theater and for people like Jerome Robbins, and people like Pat Birch and people like Wayne Salento and Alan Johnson and Jerry Robbins, you needed to be trained. Mm-hmm. That was just their sensibility. And when I went back to New York, I wound up working for those people. So I feel like, New York was very, very specific about what quality they were looking for,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the movie overall has a great message of self-reliance in a delicate situation. And, back in those days, you heard all these stories that were very common and sometimes still are today, where people are going to New York or Hollywood because they think they can catch a break, and then it goes south. And then you have to make the most of where your new surroundings are, and you're either living in your car or you're sleeping in a hall closet or something like that. I've heard stories like that too, Yeah,
I think that there has to be, you have to be real about what you're after, Yeah. I had a teacher who used to say, what is the dream and what's the doable dream, and what is real? And I think for my students, I'm always trying to help them make sure that what they're after is doable so that they get what they want, instead of, wondering why things aren't happening. It's the same thing if you're going to audition for a choreographer. You need to know that choreographer's aesthetic and their taste so that you can understand why you do or do not get a callback or get hired. You can't just think that, it's difficult. No, you have to learn what the rules are per artist. Mm-hmm. Certain way, I can't go audition for a show that's an all-tap show and not be skilled enough, and then wonder why I didn't get that job. So I think that what happens is that it seems all exciting and wonderful, but there are realities to everything. I mean, I see a lot of it. I adjudicate for where I teach, and can I say where I teach? Is that okay?
Oh, of course.
I teach at the American Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. I'm in the Los Angeles campus. Mm-hmm. And we are very, very clear about being prepared and knowing what is being asked for so that there are no surprises like that. You have to train. It's not, I think a lot, like I said before, it takes a lot of work to be good at anything, and anything in the arts is times 10. And I think that young people need to be made aware of that sooner. Mm-hmm. So that they are armed when they go after it. Because I would never say that someone couldn't attain something. There are many ways around the mountain, but to know what you're after and how to get it, in terms of, you have to be physically prepared, especially with dance. Dance is a very particular thing. So you have to be prepared. You also, not only do you need to get the job, but you need to keep the job. If you get injured on a job, that's a problem. So it's not about just even getting the job. It's what is your technique like? What is your practice like? Are you disciplined? Are you taking care of yourself inside or outside of the workplace? And when you're doing a show on Broadway or a national tour, your 8 shows a week is a full-time job, because if you're not performing, you're taking care of your body. So it's a full-time job.
Yeah, and also too, you got to get along with everybody.
Absolutely. Relationships are 99% of the equation. You must, because you have to be able to be on a set with someone for 18 hours, or in a rehearsal studio for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, or on the road. You know what I mean? I've gotten phone calls from people, casting people who are looking at my students, to hire them. And I've had it happen to me too, where people have called to find out about me, or they're calling me to find out about my students. How are they to work with? Nobody's going to take a chance. It's too expensive to make a mistake. Like,
mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah, because a lot of people just don't realize that the relationships are the biggest part of it, because they think that
Absolutely.
they think that a show business job is different than any other job, and it's not.
No, it's not. It's you know what? The whole thing is a job, and I tell my kids too. I'm like, look, you do your show, and you go home, and you stop at Duane Reade, and you walk your dog before you go to bed. All of the bells and whistles are great, but they are minuscule compared to the amount of work and what goes into it. So I think what everybody sees is all the pomp and circumstance, but I'm standing in the room, or was the kid, and with the kid who's standing at the bar, frustrated and crying because they're trying to get somewhere. You know what I mean? And then 6 years later, they're on Broadway, but you have to, they remember that those days of like banging your head against the floor, going, I can't get this, Mm-hmm. So absolutely, it is about relationships, and it is about professionalism. And, it takes an awful lot to not quit. That a lot of people have a lot of talent. A lot of people are talented. But, it's one thing to have talent. It's another thing to be able to withstand what this is about,
Yep, absolutely. How many months of rehearsal did you all do for this?
I think we rehearsed for about 6 months because there were many dance numbers. So I think we rehearsed the dance numbers. I want to say March, April, May, June. I think 5 months, maybe in June or July. I think we were in LA from March until April, May. It's a long time ago. March, April, May, June. I think that we flew to New York to do all of the shots outside and all of those things. So I think it was like maybe 4 to 5 months of actual rehearsals, and then we started shooting on location in New York, and then we flew back to do interiors in LA after that.
Wow.
It was 4.5, yes. It was a long job. It was a lot of job, yes.
I can imagine, yeah. I love it when you're all dancing and you give out business cards to get hired.
Yes. Yes, well, ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah.
And then in the movies, you can get away with a little bit more of a fairy tale, But at the same time, sometimes it can work. You never know. Sometimes if you're jaded and you wouldn't think of something like that, sometimes the simple answer could be the answer. So who knows, right?
Yeah. Oh, years ago, I was in a stand-up comedy competition, and this one comedian, we all had to be voted. So he's supposed to go up there and do his set. So he goes up there and then gets off stage after he's been announced, and he starts passing out flyers that say, vote for him and stuff. And everyone was just hysterically laughing. And he gave one to every single table, and then that was his set, and then he lost.
Right. Well, you see, you got to be able to always back it up. You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
So there it is.
Did you know a lot of the dancers / actors before the movie?
I knew Gretchen,
mm-hmm.
and I knew Monique because we were all at Ailey together. Mm-hmm. So I was familiar with them when we got to LA, but I didn't know anybody else.
You didn't know Tamara Mark yet?
I didn't know Tamara, and I didn't know Don or John Scott or Deborah. I didn't know Deb either.
How was working with Karen Copens?
She was lovely. She was a professional. She had worked quite a bit, I think, by the time she shot that film, and it was great to watch her because I had not acted before. You know what I mean? So right. It was all that was part of it. Was very new to me, and getting to watch her do that on the set helped me. And she was always very kind and professional, and I think I learned a lot. I learned a lot from working with Karen. She was lovely.
Yeah, I've been trying to get her since I first started. She's been out of the business for like 30 years. I found out recently that she's on Instagram, so I'm hoping to hear back and stuff. She's right. She's blonde now.
Right. Yeah, I haven't spoken to her at all since we finished the movie. So
yeah, she
good luck with that.
Thanks. She did some cult classics. Yeah. Sam McMurray was in the movie.
Yes.
He seems like an interesting.
It was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. Yeah, I again, not being an actor and watching actors work on the set was a big lesson for me, and it was just fun to watch him, and it was interesting to see. I guess what he did and the way he did it helped me because it was so specific, and the character he played was so specific that good actors make you a better actor because they require you to play tennis. They require you to hit the ball back. So watching people like that, and Irene Worth, I'm sorry, but getting to work with Irene Worth your first time out, that's a gift from the gods. So, I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate.
Yeah, and you had David White, who played Larry Tate on Bewitched.
Yes, my brother-in-law is very enamored. My brother-in-law loves all of those old movies, those TV shows. So that he always comments about that. Yes, I didn't get to shoot with him. I didn't shoot with him at all. But what I understand, he was great. So
yeah. Did you know Emilia Kincaid?
No.
She was an uncredited dancer at one part in the movie.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, she was a dancer in New York, and she fell into acting. She's known for playing the main demon in the Night of the Demons movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, another one I've been trying to get.
Yeah.
Is it true? Boy George is uncredited in the movie?
From what I understand, that was an extra who was dressed like Boy George.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's one of those IMDb.
It's a myth, yes.
One of those IMDb flubbers.
Yes.
So when the movie came out, it didn't do spectacular at the box office, and I'm sure there was a lot of critics who salvaged it. What was your reaction to it?
I learned a lot about the industry, and I learned that sometimes what you do, as the performer, you can't really control the outcome with TV and film, which really helped me later on in my career, and certainly now, where I realized that I have to do things in a certain way in order to get the results that I hope I can have. As well as giving other people what they want too. So there is you got to make everybody else happy, but you also have to make sure that you are living up to your own desires. I think at that point I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know anything other than to show up and do my job. So I think I was probably a little disappointed that it didn't do better, but I was so interested in getting better at everything that I really just threw myself into my work. I didn't take too much time. As a performer, you can't control everything, so you have to just kind of learn from it and make sure that you did your job and that the people that matter are happy. Mm-hmm. And from what I understood, as far as what we did, we all showed up and we did everything that we needed to do. And then the rest is apples and oranges. Art is subjective. Some people like it, some people don't, right? Certain things. So you can't assess people's taste.
Yeah.
Just only keep creating.
And this came out right in that wave of dance movies that were coming out at that time.
Correct.
The break-in movies.
Yes. It was one of the. I have to. Give it credit because it did try to attempt, the subject of trained dancers being able to do, I don't know what the right way to say it is, to do more of the hip hop stuff and more of the dances that you didn't necessarily at the time need to be trained for. Now, I work with some of these kids. They are musical and they can pop air into a phrase like I've never seen before. So, I continue to learn from them as well. But but yeah, it's right in there with all of those, and I think it tried to create some kind of union with with those two ways of working. I know for us, we worked our butts off to try, because I had never done any of that before. So, we worked really hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Columbia released another dance movie a few months later with John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis called Perfect. And
I remember, I was invited, so I went to the premiere. I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, someone from the teen movie, Just One of the Guys, told me that Columbia was hoping that was going to be the biggest hit for them that year, and that's why Just One of the Guys didn't do well at the box office. Maybe they thought the same thing about Fast Forward.
I honestly, I don't know about any of that. I the whole thing with testing markets and all of that stuff, and now we have tweeting, and there's all kinds of things that people do in order to, up their profile in terms of popularity. I think that honestly, people just try to make the best art they can, and then they give it over to business, and then that's got to be left under the business people, Mm-hmm. I honestly couldn't say that I know anything about decisions that were made about any of it.
Yeah. So you said you stayed in New York and you studied acting. I see you studied with Herbert Berghoff.
I did. I studied with Herbert Berghoff, and then I got into Uta Hagen's class, but then I booked the 30th anniversary of West Side Story, the international company, and so I left New York to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the road. Yeah.
You must have learned a lot from him.
From Jerome Robbins.
Well, him too, yeah, but I meant Herbert Berghoff. Yeah.
Oh, well, Herbert Berghoff. Yes, I did actually. I learned a lot from Herbert. Actually, it was so interesting because I had never acted before, so I was really coming out of nowhere, and they put me in a class with a lot of people who were really amazing actors, and people like Kelly Wolfe and Cecilia Peck and Emma Walton, and I learned from watching those people. But it took me a long time to really figure out my own practice. Like anything else, it took me a long time. But my biggest win from that was when I went to HB Studios. An agent who was my agent at the time took me there and said, "If you want to be an actor," she took me to a play there, and she said, "If you really want to be an actor, this is what acting looks like for somebody your age." And we watched the play, and it was wonderful. And about, I want to say, 2 years later, Herbert restaged the play, and I was in the play.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big full circle moment for me to be able to do that. Like, that meant a lot to me, and I'll never forget the first night I did the play. I was so excited, and it was on Bank Street, and I walked home to 43rd and 9th. On that night, I was so elated. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" It was very exciting for me.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned Cecilia Peck. I tried to get her on the show, but she thought I was going to ask her a lot about her dad. And
right.
I am a huge Gregory Peck fan, but I wouldn't have done that.
Right. Well, I get it. I'm sure I understand her concerns, but I get it. Yeah, it's very tricky.
Yeah, he's an icon, of course.
Yeah.
Did you do some stuff for Saturday Night Live?
I worked for Patricia Birch,
mm-hmm.
and I did a show with her out of town, and she called me one day and she said, "Can you come down to 30 Rock? I'm doing an episode of Saturday Night Live," and my husband was Pat's dance captain for many years. And he had done Saturday Night Live quite a bit. And then so she just called me and she said, "Would you mind coming down and doing this opening number?" So I did, and it was one of the most fun I've ever had on the set. It was really great. So, we learned the thing in, the conference room at 30 Rock because there was no place to rehearse. And we got up and did it, and it was fun. I enjoyed the live audience, and then we finished. And by the time we finished, I was able to walk home and watch the end of Saturday Saturday Night Live in my apartment with my husband. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think I did 2. I can't remember now. I know one. I'm remembering one, but I'm wondering if there were 2. I think there was definitely 1.
Was this before or after? Was this before or after Fast Forward?
It was after.
That was after.
Everything was after.
Everything was after.
I was just a little ballerina at the Miscoff Theater building on the 3rd floor at Ailey before anything, looking over Schubert Alley, doing my pliés.
Yeah. And I see when you got to L.A., you studied with Milton Casellas.
I did. Yes. For many years.
I've talked to people who've studied with him, too, and they say that just how powerful he was, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I studied with Milton, and I was also directed by Milton, I want to say 3 or 4 times. And I learned so much from him. And I really, really learned how to work with my own practice from him because, you know, coming into working with Milton, I was using a lot of method stuff because after Herbert, I wound up working with Harold Guskin. I don't know if you know who that is in New York.
No.
He's one of the top coaches and has coached people like Glenn Close and Kevin Kline and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. And I learned a lot from him. So I wound up doing a lot of method work, but that didn't serve me in television. It didn't serve me. It didn't serve me in the world because it wasn't, for me, it wasn't allowing me to actually participate with other actors. It was making me very isolated. So in working in class with Milton and being directed by him, I really learned how to be present and be in the moment and trust myself quite a bit. So, Milton changed my life.
Mm-hmm. He changed a lot of people's life, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I miss him terribly. Yeah.
Yeah. I see you did Carnal Knowledge with Burt Reynolds.
Well, yeah, so that's via Milton. That was all per Milton because he was working on a project. And he called me one day and he said, I'm working on this thing and I'm losing one of my actresses who was working. Can you come in and can we work on this? And I said, sure. But he never told me anything. And I'm sitting in the theater waiting for him, and he walks in with Bert. And so it began, and it was so wonderful. And Bert, miss him too. We just were watching the other day. I just watched. What is the last movie that he did? I'm sorry.
The Last Movie Star.
Yes.
Yes.
It's just. Anyway, he was an amazing, wonderful, gracious, funny. I had the best time working with them together. We laughed. I never laughed so hard.
I bet.
In my life. And the reign that Milton gave me to really run Bert around the stage was such a lesson for me, and he made me feel so confident that, and Bert did too. They were so wonderful. That really helped me, you know, it helped me in my career because you start to gain confidence from things like that. And I'm so grateful for all of those people, these people that, who are icons that, you know, were so gracious to me,
mm-hmm.
and helped me grow as an artist. I'm very lucky.
Was that in the 90s?
Oh my goodness! I want to say I did Time of Your Life with John Glover at Milton's Theater
Mm-hmm.
In I want to say 2001.
Oh, so early 2000s then.
So it was like around 2003 or 2004. I want to say, yeah.
Okay, it's later, Bert. You know.
Yes. It was after Boogie Nights, I think. After Bert did Boogie Nights.
Okay. You've done a lot of TV. Has it been difficult getting cast in movies?
No, it hasn't been difficult. I think that, there is a hierarchy in terms of who represents you and what your TVQ is, and I think it's a lot of luck too.
Yeah.
So the things that have come up, that have come my way, have happened to be in television. Although I did just do last year. Last November, I shot a feature with Stuart Townsend and Mina Suvari that I got hired right off my reel from. I didn't even audition.
Mm-hmm.
So, you never know. And to be perfectly honest, I have spent so much time and energy, and my focus has really been on teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given, because with my students, I not only teach, but I direct and I choreograph and I oversee quite a bit of performance opportunities, and I've just been in love with that. Mm-hmm. It has been so gratifying to me, and because I'm able to work with the musical theater population, I'm able to work with the actor population, and I'm able to work with the dancer population, so I kind of get all of my needs met. You know what I'm saying? I'm very lucky that way. So, and in choreographing and working with young dancers and directing young dancers, and I don't know, I love it. I would love to have more opportunities in film, but I'm good. I'm really grateful, and I'm also been in the industry long enough that I'm tired of climbing. So I honestly will figure that you get what you're supposed to get. So the things that have come my way have been the right things, and whatever comes my way in the future will be the right thing, and the other stuff not meant to be,
That's a great attitude to have, I have to say.
Kind of how I feel about it. And, I was frustrated for a long time, like any young person, but I've also learned that sometimes the things you think you want, you find out later it was okay, it was better that you didn't get. Or,
right.
I had a friend who used to say, stop praying for a Volkswagen when God has a Mercedes waiting for you. And so I just kind of go with that. Mm-hmm. And not that films are Volkswagen, I'm certainly not saying that. But I'm saying whatever I'm meant to get, will come, and it will be the right thing. And, and I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So since quarantine started, you've been doing virtual teaching?
I have been, and it's been an interesting ride. Ballet on a Persian rug is not a good thing. Don't do it. But I've learned, and I've also realized, how much you can get done given the circumstances, and what's doable. So a lot of my students are really perfecting their technique and their alignment and their collection and their opposition, because they can't really move around a lot. They don't have the space. So they're solidifying things that a lot of times could go by the wayside, because, everybody wants to do all the flashy stuff. Mm-hmm. So you got to earn that. You got to earn that. You got to walk before you run. So we've been doing a lot of, for lack of a better term, walking. But I'm hoping that it will show its benefits when this is all over.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, the future is at stake here with the arts.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. But I have faith.
Mm-hmm, me too.
Faith. Milton used to say, "Artists will save the planet," and I agree.
Mm-hmm. I agree too.
We just have to be patient, and the other thing is, we have to look to see what the gains are and could be in the circumstance, because hopefully, if we're smart enough, we will be able to change and grow our behavior better than it was before. That's my hope. Mm-hmm. That everything is a lesson. Everything is a lesson. So what are we gaining? Well, we're learning patience, and we're learning fortitude, and we're learning detail, and we're learning humanity, and we're learning humility, I hope, and we're learning a lot of my students, which is a beautiful thing, are very clear now about how much they took for granted before. So, maybe we'll just be more gracious afterwards.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so too.
I was curious. When did you start cutting your hair short?
I think the first time was actually when I moved to LA a couple years after I moved to LA, and I was just completely defiant and got tired of being the cute blonde with the hair. I didn't want to dance anymore, so I didn't need my hair for choreography, and I think I just chopped it off. And then it grew back a bit, and then I chopped it off again, and then I started getting parts where all they did was wig me, so I thought I can wear my hair any way I want. And I think that I just decided the long hair was, it was a lot of hair.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be just hair, and I felt like I needed to get rid of that appendage. I had my legs and my arms still, but I was going to get rid of the appendage of hair. Yeah.
No, it looks good.
My husband's chagrin. He would like me to grow it back, but too bad.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like the androgynous look. It's very sexy, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I love the hair that you had in Fast Forward, but the haircut you got now is great. I like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I mean, honestly, there's a lot you can do with it. And when I realized that I was, a bona fide character actress,
Mm-hmm.
then I thought, you know what? I don't want to ever look the same again. I don't want to be recognizable. Actually, I would like to disappear into the characters I play. So the more they can wig me, the more they can do to me, the happier I am.
Mm-hmm.
and as far as real life and real Tracy and her real life, time is money. So I'm all about what's easiest. I'm not much of a primper. I like it to be easy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Tracy, I thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And stay safe, and
you too.
Have yourself a great day.
You too. Thank you, Tommy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Tracy Silver. Ain't she a sweetheart? Very nice lady, great stories, and just keep on dancing, Tracy. Keep on dancing. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.